On today's video, Juju kicks off the trash talking for Super Bowl 57. We're also going to take a look at Chiefs versus Eagles, positional breakdowns, and much more. Stick around.
What's happening, Chiefs Kingdom? We are 4 days away from Super Bowl 57, where the Kansas City Chiefs will match up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you guys are excited for that, make sure to hit that like button right now. But Juju Smith-Schuster has kicked off the horrible trash talk in this Super Bowl this year with Philly cheesesteaks are not the best cheesesteaks.
Is that it?
That's it. That's as much as we're getting on trash talk these days. I think the Bengals ruined trash talk for the entire NFL because they went so hard and then got shut up, and they've been crying ever since. So no one wants to be those fools.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and break that down. Is Juju right? Breaking news, all chiefed up agrees with Juju. He might be right. I don't think they are. They may be the most traditional cheesesteak. I almost said cheesecake, which sounds way better, but they may be the most traditional cheesesteak, but I think it's probably beat somewhere. We could probably go somewhere and find a better cheesesteak, right?
They lose me with the Cheese Whiz. Like, if you're just going to spray Cheese Whiz on my steak sandwich, I'm not happy with that. I don't want that. That's crap.
Their fans out here saying that's bulletin board material. Are they reaching?
What? Yeah, everybody's reaching. That's the whole point of this. Is
there's
no trash talk. That's the closest they can get. They've tried to make that a storyline. Like, the media is like, oh, what's bulletin board material for the Eagles? And it's like, if that what make you want to, just really beat the other team, then you have problems that you didn't want to beat the team that bad in the Super Bowl anyway. But Juju went on to say that he was all about that Kansas City barbecue, and then he started ranking them. And he ranked Jack Stack at number 1, Q39 at number 2, Jones at number 3.
Well, this guy's got a lot of time on his hands. All the questioning so far, it's been so lighthearted. What's your favorite barbecue? Make fun of Patrick Mahomes' voice. This is so cringe. Like, the NFL's become such a spectacle. It's so weird. Like, can we just play the game already? Like, we're content creators. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel to talk about stuff for you guys, because why? Nothing's happening. Nobody wants to talk. This is way too long of a wait in between the games. I'm tired of it. Let's move on. We're going to talk about positional breakdowns today. We're going to take down each individual position between Chiefs, Eagles, and we're going to tell you who has the advantage. Steve, you go first. I'll give you quarterback. Who has the best quarterback? And this one is obvious.
Yeah, we can move on. Let's go to running backs.
Okay, running back. I'm going to go ahead and give the running back to the Chiefs as well. The Chiefs are up 2-0 right now because I think Isaiah Pacheco and the Jerick McKinnon 1-2 punch and getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, along with possibly Rojo. We've yet to see if he's going to dress 4 or not, but I think they're a better combination than Miles Sanders and then Kenneth Gainwell and Boston
Scott.
Yeah, Boston Scott. I don't think that those three are as good. I'm not saying Miles Sanders is great, but I don't feel like Miles Sanders is an elite back by any means. I give the nod to the Chiefs, and I say the Chiefs are up right now 2-0, Steven.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Isaiah Pacheco is the best back out of that whole group that you just mentioned. Jerick McKinnon right there beside of him. So I think it's a no contest here. I don't think there's really anything to talk about.
Okay, wide receiver. Steve, who do you got in the wide receiver matchup? I think we agree on this one. We talked about it a little bit before we come on air. Tell the people what we decided.
So we're giving the nod to the Philadelphia Eagles just for the sheer fact of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They have the best receiver out of the whole group with A.J. Brown. Now, if you look at a whole, I think the Chiefs have a better group altogether, more depth. Because if you start looking at MVS, Juju, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, I mean, McCole Hardman's out, so that hurts a little bit. But I still think you got to give the nod to the Eagles just because of A.J. Brown. If it wasn't for A.J. Brown being that much, above everybody else, being the obvious number 1 receiver out of that lot, I think you would go ahead and give it to the Chiefs, but you just can't do it with the A.J. Brown advantage.
Right. A.J. Brown is too good. They traded for him. They give up a lot to get him, and he has paid off. It's pretty much the only guy that you'll see Jalen Hurts throw to a lot. He'll sometimes launch a deep ball to Devonta Smith, which, by the way, he was a first-round pick too. Their 1-2 punch is pretty good, and I would say we love Juju here. We love MVS, but they cannot hang with the A.J. Browns of the world. They're just not at that level, and to say they are is ridiculous. So we're going to put it 2-1, Chiefs in favor right now, and let's move on to tight end. I think we both agree Travis Kelce's the best in the game. Dallas Goedert does not compete.
No, and Goddard's good. I do like him. He's a really good young guy.
Right.
I think he's one of the better ones in the league. He's not talked about enough. He's a very underrated tight end, but you can't win if you're going against Travis Kelsey, and that goes for anybody in the history of football. Like you're just not going to compete with him. I don't want to hear the Gronks. I don't want to hear the Tony Gonzalez. Kelsey is Kelsey. He's in his own league.
Okay, so through four, we are 3-1 Chiefs, and this is the last one on the offense. We're going to go the offensive line, the big uglies. We have a heck of an offensive line, Steve. PFF grades us number 3 in the entire NFL, but the Philadelphia Eagles maybe have the best offensive line in football and are rated PFF number 1, anchored by none other than Travis Kelsey's brother, Jason. So I think I give the nod to the Eagles right here, Steve. It's very slim. It could almost be a push, but I'm going to go ahead and just give him the nod because I do think Wiley is a weak link in the
Yeah.
chain. And I'll go ahead and say that matchup with Hassan Reddick probably proves more dangerous than anything we can throw at him.
Yeah, their offensive line's the best in the league. Everybody knows that. But I wanted to go ahead and call it a push just for the sheer fact that the Chiefs don't have anyone on the offensive line that has been accused of rape and kidnapping, like SEALs. So, I mean, that's kind of a blunder on their offensive line for this Super Bowl. So that's the only reason I would maybe call it a push. But otherwise, I mean, the Eagles got the best offensive line here.
This took a dark turn. Okay, so wrapping up the offense, the Chiefs are up 3-2 on the Eagles. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. The defensive line, Steve. I think I know where you're going with this one. I'm going there too. It feels like it should be closer than it is, but when you start looking at their depth chart, the Eagles probably get the nod here.
Absolutely. It's just too much. It's just too much. We have Chris Jones. We have the best defensive lineman in football, and we still don't beat them in this category because they just so much depth. And they had 70 sacks on the year, this team did. And a bulk of that came from that defensive line. I mean, if you're looking at it, obviously you have Hargrave and you have Fletcher Cox. And then on the outside, you have Sweat and Graham. All of them are double-digit sacks. I think Fletcher Cox isn't. He's at like 7, but the rest of them are double-digit sacks. I know they consider him a linebacker, but a lot of times you got Hassan Reddick there on the edge. So, I mean, if you throw that in the mix, dude. And then, of course, they have Ndamukong Suh. They went and got Robert Quinn. The depth's unreal there. It's just hard to compete.
Dude.
So, I mean, even though we have the best player out of the whole group, this doesn't work like the receivers did in favor of them. It's just Chris Jones is not enough with what all they have.
No, they even went out and drafted that big boy out of Georgia, Jordan Davis, who is a monster on the inside. So they are completely stacked on that defensive front. Our offensive line is going to have their hands full. We've been saying this all week. Our offensive line is going to be the key. Can we open up running lanes for Pacheco? Can we keep Patrick Mahomes' jersey crystal clean? That has remained to be seen. Let's move on to linebacker, Steve. I'll go ahead and take this one. I'm going to say Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Leo Chenal, and Harris. I'm going to give those 4, and I think I'm going to give them over Reddick, Edwards, and White. And the reason I do that, I know Hassan Reddick is a beast, but he tends to play on the line more. He's usually coming after the quarterback. He's not doing a lot of, dropping into coverage. He's not doing a lot of run stuff. And I give, as a whole, I think I want Nick Bolton. I think he's the most solid linebacker out of that group. And then Willie Gay, he goes head to head with Edwards and White easily, if not beats them. And Leo Chenal has been looking really good coming on lately. And then if we have to dip into Harris, Harris has been a good backup linebacker for us anytime we've had to call on him. So I give the nod to our linebackers right here.
Yeah, so tied 1-1 on defense, and let's dip back to the secondary, man. Secondary, this one's a tough one. We do have a good group of guys, but they are very young and inexperienced, and they have some big names out there in the secondary. At corner, they have Darius Slay and James Bradbury, and then they have Gardner Johnson back at safety. So that's some big names in that secondary there, and it's hard to compete with our guys because we have Justin Reed, Juan Thornhill, who's like a third-year cat, but the rest of them are all rookies, man. It's kind of hard to compete in this category, and I'm gonna have to give the nod to the Eagles there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. Trey McDuffie, he's a dog. Watson, Josh Williams, Cook, Reed, they're all good. But I just think as a whole, they're a little young, a little not grown up where we need them to be. Next year, the year after that, we're going to be one of the best secondaries in football. But for now, I do feel comfortable. Go ahead and giving that one to the Eagles. So that puts them up 2-1 here in the defensive category. Let's move on to special teams. Special teams, Steve. I think I'm giving it to Harrison Butker and Tommy Townsend. We got a Pro Bowl punter, and Harrison Butker, if he had not dealt with all these injuries this year, was probably going to be a Pro Bowl kicker, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I actually watched something with Harrison Butker where he's talking about this whole thing, and after he suffered that injury kicking the ball, I think it might have been in Arizona actually, where the turf went out from under him and he had the ankle sprain. After he did that, he had to deal with a whole new setup. Like he started going to like a 5 step drop instead of the 11 and stuff like that. A lot of different things that he was working on. So that could account for his blunders early in the season when he first came back from injury. But definitely in the kicking department, we got that wrapped up. Special teams as a whole, I think we have that wrapped up as well. Even PFF has our special teams, even though we kind of struggled at the beginning of the year with special teams. We're still ranked 11th in the entire league, as opposed to the Eagles, who are ranked 30th. So there's a pretty big gap there. So I think you go ahead and give the special teams to the Chiefs on this one.
Yeah, I agree. So that makes it Chiefs 5, Eagles 4. We're going into the last category. That is coaching. Steve, does Nick Sirianni bring it back and tie it up for the Eagles here over Andy Reid? I think we all know the answer to this one.
Yeah, well, it's not really fair to Sirianni. That guy has been a beast of a coach for the Eagles this year. So, not throwing any shade there whatsoever, but there's not anybody in this game outside of Bill Belichick that's going to give Andy Reid a run for their money. There just isn't. I mean, Andy Reid is a gem. He's a national treasure. He is one of the best coaches to ever step on the sideline of football. He's an awesome guy. He's a funny guy, and he's an offensive genius. So good luck, Nick Sirianni, trying to outsmart the old head here because I
Yeah.
don't know, man. I think Andy Reid's game plan, whatever he comes up with for this, is going to be the most important, vital part of the Super Bowl. Because the teams, as we've talked about just now, they match up very, very evenly. Chiefs are a little bit better in some areas, and the Eagles are a little bit better in other areas. There's nothing crazy. There's no big gaps. I think probably the widest gap is obviously the QB and the coaching, right? Because that Andy Reid Mahomes combo, dude, that is what's going to give the Chiefs the Lombardi. If we get this thing and we win it, we take care of business, it is because we have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm with you. It's even down the board. If you look back on it, if everybody plays the way they should and all the matchups line up the way they should, if you look at offense, the only ones that was a tight race was the wide receiver race. Which wide receiver is going to step up on either side of the ball and make those big plays when it counts? Are our guys going to step up and bail Mahomes out? Are their guys going to step up, make big plays, and beat our DBs? That may be the difference on the offense. And on the defense, comes down to the linebacking core. Are they going to be able to shut down Pacheco? Are they going to be able to stop these little quick screens and things? Are we going to be able to stop the run and keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket? I think it comes down to that. Maybe with everybody overlooking all these big names and stuff, it could come down as simple to the wide receiver play and the linebacker play on each side of the ball, because that's where we're the most even. Which one of these teams are going to step up in those departments and get the win?
One other thing that is going to be a big factor, we can go ahead and move over to this topic here. These teams have to be disciplined. That's all there is to it. You can't go out, you can't have a bunch of penalties, you can't turn the ball over and stuff like that in a game this closely matched because that will get you beat. With that being said, Carl Cheffers is the head referee of Super Bowl 57, and everyone knows the name Carl Cheffers if you're a Chiefs fan. This guy absolutely 100% hates the Chiefs. It's almost so obvious. There was talk earlier in the year, even from big corporations such as FanDuel, that Carl Cheffers needs to be investigated because the way that he unfairly officiates Chiefs games. So this is not good for the Chiefs. It really isn't. But with the refereeing being under scrutiny, Mike, do you really think Cheffers can come out here and just act like a complete fool?
No, there's two things that Chief fans need to rely on. Number one, I think the NFL is going to tell the officiating to stay out of this unless they have to call something and it just turns into a debacle. But I think they're going to keep them out of the game. I don't see it going to one side or the other. Now, the reason that people don't like Cheffers is because when it comes to the Chiefs, we tend to be the favorite a lot, and he tends to call things at certain times of the game, be it to pull some points off the board, like with a hold on a touchdown, which we've
Yeah.
already dealt
Well, it's
with.
also the volume. The volume
Right.
of calls. He calls like double to triple the amount of like defensive pass interferences on the Chiefs as he does other teams and things like that. So it's like a big obvious discrepancy to where you look at it and you're like, something going on
Well,
here.
one point I'd like to make though about Carl Cheffers, he favors the underdog. Right now, we're sitting at an underdog. We're probably going to go into the Super
Hmm.
Bowl as an underdog. Under Carl Cheffers, the underdog wins 75% of the time or something like that. It's pretty crazy. So just keep that in mind. Let's not worry about officiating. This happened with the Bengals,
Well,
and they look like a bunch of idiots. So
yeah, one more thing when it comes to Carl Cheffers, as bad as he can be towards the Chiefs, and everybody knows it, the Chiefs are actually 8-2 in Carl Cheffers referee games. So, despite some of the setbacks there, the Chiefs have figured out a way to overcome. So, why not do it one more time here in the biggest game of the year and get this second Lombardi for Patrick Mahomes in 4 years, man?
moving on, let's talk about the Chiefs helmets. I seen today, this is like not a big story, but this is what we got. They're getting to wear the Len Dawson 16 sticker on the back. That's pretty cool. We all know Len Dawson was big with the Chiefs franchise. He passed away this season. We started the season with a choir huddle, and now how cool would it be if we go to the Super Bowl with his sticker on our helmets? We win our third Lombardi, our second in the past 4 years, and maybe we can get out and do a choir huddle there before the last kneel down to run the clock. Steve, how cool would that be to start the season, end the season, and honor a great like Len Dawson?
Storybook. You can't make that stuff up. If the
Oh,
Chiefs were to win this game,
script
if the Chiefs,
writers.
yeah, Bengals fans, earmuffs.
Yeah,
But you couldn't make this stuff up, man. Like if we could start the season on the choir huddle to honor Len Dawson, who's the most notorious chief of all time, and then we could end the season that way while winning the Super Bowl.
that's
That's
epic.
epic, bro. That's
That's
epic.
epic,
There's no
dude.
other way to put it. That would be amazing, and that's exactly how I want this to go down. Like what a season it would be, especially knowing that the Chiefs have been counted out since the beginning of the year. No Tyreek Hill, not going to win the AFC West. They loaded up. You're not even going to, get to the playoffs. To now, you're not going to beat the Bengals because Joe Burrow owns you. And then after that, it's well, the Eagles are going to wipe up the field with you because they're such a better team than you. Let's prove them wrong one more time, and let's honor Len Dawson one more time, and then carry that Lombardi back to Kansas City.
Dude, that would be so epic. I can't wait to go to the parade. We got to win one. I
Yeah,
need a vacation, people. Come on.
yeah, let's do this thing. So the Chiefs made some roster moves yesterday ahead of the Super Bowl here. We talked about it in this video right here. Make sure to watch that. Get in the comments. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you get notifications when we come out with new content. And we'll be back tomorrow with more on Super Bowl 57 and your Kansas City Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.